Peace and blessings. Welcome to my channel. My name is Taj Utsi and I'm a certified financial coach. I am also the founder of True Financial Coaching, where our mission here is to educate, enlighten, and equip individuals with the financial literacy that is needed in order to get off of the rat wheel. What is the rat wheel? The rat wheel is when one is constantly financing objects that go down in value for them, but up in value for the banks at the same time. The wheel is only powered as long as the rat is in motion. So when one is constantly financing depreciating objects, then they continue to keep the wheel in motion. It's not until one wakes up and realizes that they are the rat that is powering the wheel that then they can create a plan in order to get off of the rat wheel. Once they get off the rat wheel, then they become free to do what they want when they want, instead of having to do the things that they don't want. Today's video is titled, People in Debt Only Speak Debt. But before we get into that video, the topic of discussion, I just wanted to say thank you again to my good brother Mark Marini Jr. for coming on and sharing some information, some knowledge in regards to life insurance. He also wanted to say thank you to everyone that tuned in, and I thank everyone as well that tuned in for that live stream. And he informed me that there were many individuals that reached out to him. He said his email has been flooded with inquiries and requested more information about life insurance. So again, we want to thank Brother Mark Marini, as well as the viewers that take time to watch the video. And again, he sends his thanks to everyone that has reached out to him as well. And one thing that kind of inspired or had me thinking about today's video was something that I had mentioned in the live stream with Mark that we did. And the thing that I had said was that Mark speaks the language. And for some, they may not understand what I meant by that, but when your mindset shifts and you begin to realize that, wait a minute, I'm the rat, right? Then you begin to notice things that you didn't notice before. You begin to see things from a different lens when it comes to this financial landscape that we're in. And that's how I was. It was a lot of things that once I became enlightened and educated, I began to look at things differently, which caused me to speak differently in regards to finances and debt. And like I said, Mark, he was speaking the language. And that was just a little glimpse into some of the things we talk about, right? Because there's other things that we, have discussed. But even in those things, like I said, he speaks the language. And a lot of people do not speak the language. And so much so that, you have billions of dollars of credit card debt and student loan debt and auto loan debt, right? Millions of dollars of personal loan debt, HELOC debt. Why? Because people don't speak the language. And when you don't speak the language, you're prone to make financial decisions that can jeopardize or take away the time in your life. Because as I often say, right, debt keeps one tied to three things. Debt keeps one tied to a job that they may hate. And as a result of being tied to a job that they don't hate, what's happening? Time has been given away. Debt keeps one tied to a depreciating object, whether it's a car, whether it's a cell phone. Why? Because again, one has to pay back what they borrowed. And as a result, again, it takes away time. The third thing that debt keeps one tied to is the banks. And the banks, when one finances or borrows to uh, have a depreciating object in their possession, then again, that keeps them tied to the bank for a period of what? Time. And this is what many people don't realize, that you're not only giving money, principal and interest, but you're also giving time. But when one has been blinded by debt, been blinded by depreciating objects, then they don't see that. And they speak debt. They speak debt. I've had several conversations with individuals. And in the midst of having these conversations, I hear things that they don't even know they're saying. But yet what they're saying tells me a lot about them from a financial perspective, right? Case in point, I had a individual, a neighbor of mine, and I remember one time we was just talking, and I had a rental vehicle, and the rental what I had, I believe it was the same as the kind of vehicle that he owned, or he said he owned, right? And the reason why I say that is because he said he went to the dealership and he wanted this particular type of vehicle. Saw it. They had, his credit, whatever, was pretty good, where his interest rate was probably zero or really small. And that's another thing I'll get into in this video. But he was saying how he went to the dealer, saw his interest, his credit was good, right? He didn't put any money down. I believe he said a little money down. But then he also said, the taxes was X amount of dollars. Just to say something, just throw it out there. Let's just say, I don't know how much it was, but I'm just use a random number, right? But let's say the taxes on the vehicle was $1,500. Just throw it out there. I don't know what it was, but let's just say it was $1,500. So then what he says was, he asked the individuals, the dealership, if they could knock off $1,500 off of the price of the vehicle. That way, he can just roll the taxes into that. This is what I'm saying about people in debt only speak debt. So now, and why I say that is because now this man, first of all, he didn't buy the vehicle as he said he did. You cannot buy a vehicle with financing. There's only one way to buy a vehicle, and that's with cash. The sticker price on the vehicle only applies to cash buyers. The sticker price on the vehicle does not apply to one who is financing the vehicle, meaning you are making payments. Somebody say, well, how is that? Easily. And this is what I mean about financing things that go down in value for you, but up in value for the banks. Again, when you are financing a vehicle, that sticker price does not apply to you as an individual. Why? Because of interest. It's that simple, because of interest. When you finance a vehicle, the price of the vehicle depreciates. And statistics show that the value of a vehicle depreciates and is the greatest in, I believe, the first 3 to 5 years when the largest amount of depreciation will take place. So that means that that vehicle price, the value drops for the financer or even the buyer of cash, right? But at the same time, it's going up in value for the banks if you are a financer because of interest. Going down in value for the financer, up in value for the banks at the same time. So this particular individual, this neighbor of mine that said he asked them to take off $1,500 so that he wouldn't have to pay taxes or whatever. But really what he doesn't even realize he said is you not only finance the whole value of the vehicle, but you also finance the taxes. You finance the taxes. You finance the vehicle and the taxes. That's all you did. So now, not only that, but now you're paying interest on taxes. And this is what I mean, how people in debt only speak debt. He said this to me out loud. He said this to me out loud. And I'm not judging him. I didn't say, oh, no, you dumb enough. Nope. I said, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Why? Because he can't hear me if I was to explain that to him. He couldn't hear me. Why? Because he only speaks debt. And you have millions of people out there doing the same thing. People brag about their interest rate. They brag about their interest rate on a depreciating object. They brag about it. Saying, well, my interest rate is 2%. My interest rate is 2.5%. Interest is the penalty that one must pay for not having cash. Say that again. Interest is the penalty that one pays for not having cash. Can I say that to a person in debt and they hear me? No. Why? Because they only speak debt. People brag about their interest rate on a finance vehicle, something that you don't even need to have interest. Just buy the vehicle cash. Somebody say, well, who has all that money? That's what I'm talking about. People in debt only speak debt. Only people in debt say, who can buy a vehicle in cash? Only people in debt say that. Why? Because they only speak debt. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth. I'm telling you, it's the truth. It's the fact that people, they finance because they want that instant gratification. They don't want to save up. They don't want to save. Oh, that takes too long. Oh, okay, but you rather be tied to a depreciating object for 84 months, aka 7 years, at an interest, paying interest, extra, additional. People in debt only speak debt. Had another thing people say that speak debt. Don't pay off your mortgage because if you have a small interest rate. Why have your money tied up in paying off a mortgage when you could put that money somewhere else and it can grow and earn interest? That's what I mean. People in debt only speak debt. When people say things like that, don't pay off your mortgage. It's a small interest rate. Take that money, put it into the stock market. When people say things like that, ask them, do you have a mortgage? Ask them, can you share your credit report with me? They probably won't do that. They won't do that. But if you ask them and they do it, you can see why they talk the way they talk. Only people with a mortgage will tell you to keep your mortgage. It sounds crazy, right? But I'm telling you, only people with a mortgage will tell you to keep your mortgage. Person with no mortgage will tell you to pay that off. Why? Because they don't speak debt any longer. Because see, and I did a video on this showing you that a paid off house or just making an additional principal payment each month is probably the biggest return on investment that you're going to get. The biggest return, most likely 99% of the time. How is that? Easily. If, let's just say, for example, you have a mortgage payment of $1,000. Let's just say $500 is the principal and $500 is the interest. And that's possible, right? Typically in the beginning of a mortgage payment, especially if it's a FHA, the larger portion of the monthly payment goes towards interest. But let's just say for the sake of easy math, right? It's 500, 500. Many people will say at that point, well, you even, right? Let's just take that money now and put it in the stock market. Take extra money, don't pay it off early. Put it in the stock market. If you got extra money, don't put it towards your mortgage payment. Put it towards the stock market. Because at this point, you're at the break-even point. People in debt only speak debt. But let's just say you make an additional principal payment of $500. So that means for that 1 month you paid, instead of $1,000, you're paying $1,500. So now what has just happened? By paying that additional principal only payment, you have now eliminated something that would typically happen if you did not pay that extra $500. Well, what is that, Taj? You have just eliminated a interest payment. And remember, interest is the penalty for not having the cash. So now, by paying an additional $500, you done save yourself $500 in interest payment. What is that? That is 100% return on investment. But people in debt don't see it like that. Why? Because they don't physically have that money. They don't physically have it. But you have eliminated not only an interest payment, but you now save yourself time. And this is what people in debt would say, who say, don't pay off your home early because of the small interest rate. This is what they don't see. They don't see that. Why? Because they only speak debt. They only speak debt. So now, there's only one way, as I often say, to buy anything, and that's with cash. But people in debt truly believe that they're homeowners with a 30-year mortgage. They really believe that. You want to see if you're a homeowner? Here's a simple formula to see how much of a homeowner you are. Mortgage payment minus mortgage balance equals how much of your homeowner you are. Say that again. Mortgage payment minus mortgage balance equals how much of a homeowner you are. So if you have a mortgage payment, take your monthly mortgage payment minus your balance. That number is going to be negative, which means you are a negative homeowner, aka not a homeowner. Now, you take somebody that doesn't have a mortgage payment, they have a paid off house, mortgage payment minus mortgage balance, in that case equals 0. That means they are a homeowner. Can you say this to people in debt and they hear you? No, they can't. Why? Because they only speak debt. They only speak debt. So when you tell individuals, and I'm not saying do this because they can't hear you, but if you just throw it out there, if you talk to individuals and you say, are you a homeowner? Yes. Do you have a mortgage? Yes. How can you be a homeowner? That's not possible. You are a negative homeowner. Somebody would say, and I've heard this all the time again, well, you're never really a homeowner because you always have to pay taxes. People in debt only speak debt. Taxes is something that you have to pay. A monthly tax or a quarterly tax or annual tax is nothing compared to a mortgage. Tax is an obligation. Mortgage is debt. Taxes equals obligation. Mortgage equals debt. It's like rent. Rent is an expense. Mortgage equals debt. Rent is not debt. But people that only speak debt will also say you're throwing away money paying rent. How? How? How am I throwing away money if I'm paying rent when I have to have somewhere to live? But people in debt, speak debt, will say, well, if you have to have somewhere to live, you might as well get a mortgage because you have to pay it anyway, and you're paying towards home ownership. So you're telling an individual that has no debt, and I'm not against mortgages, right? I'm not against mortgages, but I just want people to think and listen to something. You're telling a person that has no debt that is paying monthly rent of $1,200. You're telling them to go out and get a mortgage because people would say this, well, you're paying $1,200 in rent. You can get a mortgage, and your mortgage would be $1,200 also. People in debt speak debt. You're telling a person that has a rent of $1,200 that that's the same as getting a mortgage when you're paying a monthly payment of $1,200. That is not the case. You see why? Because the person in debt is only looking at the monthly mortgage payment. If the mortgage payment is if the mortgage is $300,000 a month for 30 years, or $175,000 for 20 years, that's not the same as somebody renting, paying $1,200 a month. Here you have a person with no debt paying $1,200 a month in rent, and you're telling them to go get a $300,000 mortgage because you're throwing away your money paying rent. And then most likely the person that's saying this has an FHA mortgage, which is one of the worst mortgages that you can get. And if you don't agree with this, that's all right. It's all right. Agree, disagree. Just be respectful in your comments. But again, people in debt only speak debt. Mortgage payment minus mortgage balance shows you how much of a homeowner you are. Here's another thing people would say that's in debt. Yeah, I'm going to get this house, got this house, take out a HELOC, home equity line of credit, put it into another property, and then rent that property out. And now the rent that I get from that property, I can pay off my property. People in debt only speak debt. And I'm saying that to say business, right, and debt and personal debt are two different things. Business debt and personal debt are two different things. I'm not against business debt. Why? Because with business debt, your customers pay that. With personal debt, you pay that. But the problem most people do is they intertwine business and personal. And this is what they say. This is what they do. I'm gonna take out a HELOC, meaning that right there, if you have to get a HELOC, that means that right there shows you you're not a homeowner. Because a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, where whatever you owe, the equity or whatever they call it, people call it, I have equity in my home. No, that is not your equity. That is the bank's equity. Why? Because you don't own the house. If you have a mortgage, that is the bank's equity. Do you have to borrow your money that's in your bank account? No, I just take it out. Why? Because it's mine. If you have to get a HELOC, that means you're borrowing money from the bank, which means you don't own it. It belongs to the bank. They're lending it to you. You have to do what? Pay it back with interest. Why? Because that's the tax, the penalty that you pay for not having the cash. But people do this. They take money out, or they get a HELOC, take the money, put it in another property, and say, I'm going to use the rent from that to pay off my home. Now you have two mortgages. Really, three. See? But people in debt can't hear that. Somebody say, how you got three? The mortgage on the first property. Now you get a HELOC. It's a second mortgage. That's two mortgages on one house. But people in debt can't hear that. Why? Because they only speak debt. Two mortgages on one house And then the third mortgage, because you just finance a second property. 3 mortgages. But yet people say, I'm going to use the cash flow from this property to do that. Not with personal and business, that's different. And this is what I mean. People in debt only speak debt. Now you look at it, you got three prop 3, 4, 5 properties all under your personal name. And let's say the person that's renting doesn't pay the money, have the money for the month. Now what? That falls on you. It falls on you because the banks don't care. See, this is what I'm saying. The banks don't care what you do, as long as they get paid every month. They don't care what you do. If I'm a bank, go ahead. Here you go. Go ahead, do that. I don't care what you think you are doing. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Use the money from this to pay off that. I don't care what you do. I just want my money and interest. You can think you're a homeowner all you want, but you're not a homeowner with a mortgage. You're a loan owner. But people in debt can't hear me. Why? Because they only speak debt. They only speak debt. Excuse me. They only speak debt. I used to speak debt. I used to speak debt. And that example I gave you, there's something called velocity banking. And I used to speak that language of velocity banking, where you take a HELOC and you got a bunch of debt, whatever. You take a HELOC and you're using debt to pay off debt, is what they say. And I understand the logic of it, and it may work, but the percentages of it working is very small. I would never speak that language no more, but I used to speak it. Velocity banking. I might do a video on that one day, but I used to speak that. And I remember I shared that with some brothers at the time. And I thought I was like, I thought I knew what I was talking about. And I was able to explain it. But I remember one brother just laughed. He was laughing. And I know why now. Because I was talking that and I was speaking this out loud. And this is what I'm saying. Be careful what you say when it comes to finances. Because like Mark said in the video, when people talk finances, the antenna go up. And he's right. Oh man. I'll tell you, man, I used to speak that. I'm glad I understand that speech, but I don't speak it anymore. I understand it though. I can hear it. I can hear it, but I don't speak it and I don't listen to it. I don't listen to it. I hear it, but I don't listen to it. I understand it, but I don't speak it. Right? Velocity banking. Here in velocity banking, you're taking out debt to pay off debt. You're paying off debt with debt. You have to get a HELOC or a personal loan, personal line of credit, and they say just use all your expenses with that. And I can get into it, but it can work. I'm not saying it doesn't work, right? It can work, but the percentages of it working is very low. Why? Because it requires a level of discipline, and many people don't have. And they call it velocity banking, right? Pay off your debt fast, velocity. But again, people don't that strategy takes a certain level of discipline that many people don't have. How do I know? Because of the millions of dollars worth of credit card debt. How do I know? Because of the $1 million of auto loan debt. How do I know? Because of the billions or trillions of dollars of student loan debt. People don't have the discipline to do something like that. And this is why, I teach what I teach, right? The debt snowball, because now it's not, see, when it comes to paying off debt, it's not always about numbers. It's about a behavior. It's a behavior. It's a mindset. It's a behavior and a mindset. And this is why I teach and did the debt snowball. I did. And why? Because when an individual has been in debt for so long, they feel like they can't get out. So now it's a psychological thing. So now when you do the debt snowball and that individual see they paid off that one debt, and in no time, oh, I can do this now. I can do this. You get that motivation. And then you see that other debt go down. Now is what? It's changing your behavior, changing your mindset. It's not always about numbers, especially when somebody has been in debt for 15, 20 years with $100,000 worth of debt. You got to change that behavior. You got to change that mindset. So when people talk about things like velocity banking, even the debt avalanche, it's not a bad, right? But the most people that promote the debt avalanche only looking at the amount of money you're saving in interest, right? When you're first starting off, you want to change behaviors. Do those strategies work? They have a probability of working, yes. But the probability of someone sticking to the debt snowball over debt avalanche and debt velocity banking and succeeding with the debt snowball is far greater than the debt avalanche and velocity banking. But again, people in debt will say velocity banking. People in debt will say, I have credit cards in case of emergencies. That's debt talk. I used to talk like that. I have a credit card in case of emergency. Why don't I have cash in case of emergency? Been working for 20, 25 years and I need credit cards for emergencies. Why don't I have cash for emergencies? But people in debt would say, use your credit card in case of emergency. People in debt only speak debt. Once you make up in your mind that you're tired of being in the same financial rut that you're in, and I know I can say that because that's how I was. Once you make up in your mind that you're tired of being in that same condition of living paycheck to paycheck, constantly financing things that go down in value, constantly got to use buy now, pay later, and that's another thing that people talk. Buy now, pay later. How can you buy now when you have no money? How can you buy now when you have no money now? You're going to pay later. Yeah, oh yeah, you're going to pay later in fees and interest and in time. Buy now, pay later is something that people speak. When I was growing up, it was just layaway. My mom she went layaway. You didn't get the item until you paid it off. You put money down on it, they held it for you. You keep putting down money on it, and then you get it afterwards. Not anymore. Now it's buy now with no money, pay later. Pay later. What is it? What are the banks doing? Just creating debt slaves, man. That's it. They creating more and more debt slaves, younger debt slaves, younger debt slaves. They used to do it with credit cards on college campuses. Now it's buy now, pay later. 4 easy payments on this T-shirt. 4 easy payments on these pair of socks. But that's where it gotta be. It gotta be like that. Why? Because debt slaves must be. That's how the will powers. That's how the will powers. If everybody bought cars cash, the car industry would go out of business. If everybody bought houses cash, the housing industry would go out of business. Banks would go out of business because they wouldn't make any money. So this is why they promote these things. That's why they promote these things. That's why the banks promote these things. The banks are not evil. The banks are not scam artists. They just doing business. They're just doing business. But the reason why they're so successful in their business is because of the ignorance of the people. That's it. The more ignorant an individual is, the more successful the banks can be. But once you wake up, you realize I don't need the banks. I don't need them unless want to start a business or something. And I'm not against business debt. Yeah, you want to, if you can, start your business with cash. But I'm not against business debt. Why? Because again, personal debt you pay back. Business debt your customers pay back. But if the business of you is out of order, and when you start a business outside of you, that's going to be out of order. So this is why I say get the business of you first. Invest in yourself first before you invest in anything outside of yourself. And that also means a business. Because otherwise your business is going to run just like the business of you. I'm done. I can go on, but I'm going to stop. I might do a part 2 of this. People in debt speak debt. Part 2 coming soon. But I hope you enjoyed this one. And again, if you disagree with anything I said in it, that's all right. Just be respectful in your comments. But I hope this has helped individuals, and that's what we do here. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help individuals. That's why I say that with true financial coaching, what we do is educate, enlighten, and equip individuals with the financial literacy that is needed in order to get off of the rat wheel. And if you're ready to become free, to do what you want when you want, to escape the rat wheel, to get out of the rat race, I can help you. I can help you. I got individuals that I've helped. They thank me, and all I did was share knowledge. That's all I did. They put the work in. All I did was gave information. That's all I just share information. Help you create a plan if you want to, do that. But you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in. And like I said, for a lot of people, they're not willing to make that sacrifice until they have that wake up moment. Then you realize that's how it was with me. I was just going through the motions, man, stuck in the matrix. And then I just woke up like I said, COVID woke me up. It woke me up. And then I became what? Unplugged from the matrix. Now I'm free. I'm free to do what I want when I want. Free to do what I want when I want. Do an update on my retirement, how that's been. People been asking them how that's been. I'm gonna do an update video on that. It's been nice. It's been nice. Everybody can experience this. I'm telling you. Everybody can experience this. So if you're ready to start your journey on becoming free and investing in yourself, come visit me at TRUFIN coaching.com. Set up your consultation and we can help you become free to do what you want when you want instead of having to do the things that you don't want. Peace and blessings.